Hello everyone, welcome to VWO's webinar. This is going to be our first in 2018. I hope you're all excited about it. Well, at least I am. By the way, my name is Utkarsh Rai and I take up growth marketing initiatives at VWO. I'm going to be your host and co-speaker for this session. You can reach out to me on Twitter with today's hashtag AskVWO for any questions during the session. You can also use the GoToWebinars question widget to ask us anything. We'll take them up at the end of the session. For today's session, we have Mr. Matthew Pezzimenti, also known as the CRO Guru, who is joining us from Sydney, Australia. He is the director and founder of Conversion King, which is a very renowned digital agency in Australia. We welcome you, Matt. In this session, we are discussing how to optimize mobile websites in 2018. So without any further ado, Matt, over to you.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the kind introduction. I, like yourself, are really excited about being able to share everybody about the learnings that we've had and how we can all get a better mobile experience in 2018. Awesome. So to get straight into it, we might just jump over to the next slide. Let's have a look. So guys, just as a bit of a heads up, I am currently traveling at the moment. So I'm sitting in a lounge in the Virgin Lounge in Sydney. So if there's anyone here logging in to see the webinar from the lounge as well, please come over and say a quick hello. So I do apologise if there's a bit of background noise or if I need to mute myself at any point in time because of the announcements. Cool. And as Rakesh was saying before, there is a hashtag as well on Twitter. So if you go to hashtag #VWO, if you wanted to share any insights you get through the webinar as well. All right, so just a quick little bit of information about myself. Yeah, obviously the founder of Conversion Kings. I've run over 3,000 A/B tests, which has given me a great wealth of knowledge and experience. Obviously, we've learned a lot. We've learned what to do, and also clearly, obviously, what not to do as well, which is always helpful and successful in CRO. So jumping through, what I wanted to kick off today's presentation with is a bit of a statement, and basically this statement was brought through from the director of Bugatti, and basically what this car is really important if anyone knows much about cars. And what it was is that this is a Bugatti Chiron, which is a predecessor to the Bugatti Veyron, which was the formerly fastest production car in the world 10 years ago. And what had happened is over those 10 years to date is that there's been a lot of competitors coming to try and take that #1 podium of the fastest car. And as those competitors are coming up, and they've actually pushed Bugatti out of that top spot. So to make sure they didn't lose it, they had to come up with a car which was better than what they currently had, which was a phenomenal car in itself. And this was driven by one statement, which was to make everything remarkably better than it once was. And when I heard this, and I thought that resonates so much for all of us in conversion optimization, is our goal really is to make our web experience remarkably better than it was previously, which is a great notion to live by. And I guess this swiftly brings us to the next point and why we're talking about mobile optimization today. And a lot of this comes down to this stats that you'll see on your screen here. And this stat is basically the differences between people using desktop or mobile devices and how it's changed. And as you can see, in late 2016, we're now getting more mobile traffic, or people accessing the internet by a mobile or tablet device other than a desktop. And some of you may already be experiencing this at the moment, or you may be seeing even a larger disparity to what we're mentioning here. But as we're seeing the trend, obviously mobile is definitely taking over as one of the major contributors to people getting online. And this, for us as marketers, causes a few challenges. And one of the big challenges is that, as we all know, or generally we find, is that mobile converts lower than desktop traffic. And this is having an overall depression on people's conversion rates. And the next slide we have here just shows other areas where this becomes problematic. And what we've done here, we've looked at basically the different times when people are accessing the web and what devices they're using. So you can see there early morning, or late evening, people are on those mobile devices. And if you jump into your analytics and look at the time of day conversion, we do find there are similar trends on when people purchase. So what we're finding is people that are purchasing early morning, early evening, are now accessing your website on these mobile devices that are typically converting lower. And this is having a multiplying effect to the depression of overall conversion rates. So focusing on mobile shouldn't be maybe we should be doing that in 2018. It really needs to be a big focus to see exactly how we can optimize this mobile experience to not just maintain your conversion rate, but obviously increase it. So jumping on to the next area here as we go through is I wanted to give everyone some practical examples of what this depression can potentially do. So if we look historically, if we see a desktop which is 60% of the traffic is converting at 3% and 40% of the traffic on mobile is converting at over 1%, that gives us all a blended rate of 2.2% on site. But the worrying issue is that when the traffic profile changes from only 40% of people on desktop converting at 3% and 60% of people are on mobile converting at 1%, that drops your conversion rate from 2.2 to 1.8. And the worrying part about this is that this is as a result of nothing that you've done within your business. Is just a shift to the culture of consumers of how they want to access the internet and access your website. But the opportunity that we're all facing here is in conversion optimization. It's not just about remaining or keeping status quo, it's about pushing the envelope. And what we should be all aiming for is to not just bring mobile up to desktop, which is obviously this experience here, to bring everything up to 3%, but actually to see if we can actually push mobile even further. And to break it down into monetary terms, what does this actually look like? So I've just got some very basic math here, and if there's any mathematical or statistical people on the calls, I apologize for the simplicity of this example, but it does give awareness to the big issue we have. And you can see here that if we have yearly sessions of 10 million people on a desktop device with an average order value of $80, and that 2.2% conversion rate gives us all a total revenue of 17.6 million. Whereas if on mobile, exact same amount of people, exact same purchase, but the conversion dropped to 1.8, you're getting that at a 14.4% of revenue. So you've dropped $3.2 million in revenue purely because of the way that people are now wanting to access your information. And the good news, though, is if you look at what we've done, and if we can bring it up to that 3%, you can see that you can make a jump from 17.6 to 24 million. So the results can be astronomical depending on what you do. So if you do nothing at all, obviously we're looking at the middle figure here. If you actually start jumping in and optimizing your mobile experience, you can see the benefit and reward for yourself as well. So the big question is, that's all well and good in theory. How do we actually get rubber to road, and how do we optimize your mobile experience? And basically it comes down to three main pillars that we can look at today, and that's about identifying the problem, coming up with a solution, and then testing those solutions and those proposed tests out with the services of the likes of VWO. So the first issue here is, how do we identify where your mobile conversion issues are? And there's a number of different ways you can do it through qualitative and quantitative research. And whilst there's probably 20 or 30 different ways to do it, I'm going to touch on two ways that we look at identifying where mobile issues are, and hopefully they can inspire you to look at other creative ways to figure out where your mobile issues potentially could lie. So the first area that I look at is I go into Google Analytics to actually see what the main problem is. And I've just pulled some data from one of our accounts. And what we can see here is that when we're looking at this report coming out of Google Analytics, it's the Audience Mobile Overview Report. We can see that 45% of traffic comes from mobile device overall. It's around about 55–60% if you add a tablet to that. But the problem we're facing here, if you can see, is that we've got a mobile conversion rate of 1.5% and a desktop conversion of 3%. So clearly the opportunity here is about how can we optimize that mobile experience for conversion. Then the other report I look at is I have a look and find what devices are generally causing me an issue. And what I'd expect to see here is a very similar conversion rate across all devices. But what we can see from this data is if we look at the Apple iPhone, it's converting at 1.92%, around the 2% mark. Where I'm concerning out of this data is I can see the iPhone 6 is only converting at 0.58. And that's an interesting statistic and a great piece of information or tip from everyone, is that what we also find now is that because there are so many different devices and screen sizes available in the market, that sometimes your website doesn't perform the way it should across all those different devices. So this report here is able to give you some direction into having a look at what the user experience is on those particular devices. And we can see here that there's potentially a technical error which is causing such a low conversion rate on the iPhone 6 or the 6S opposed to the iPhone in general, which is the main one going through. So where we find that to be a relevant area to look at is that we would run a UAT of the website through that process to uncover any technical issues, or we might find that the experience is vastly different, so we need to test different iterations of the website for that particular device. The other area that we look at to find blockers or conversion issues is through a tactic that we call EEG. And I've got a bit of a case study here of, we've looked at a website to identify where they're potentially having some mobile issues. And the hard part for this example is that this current mobile experience is actually really good. They do a lot of things really well on this mobile experience, so it's hard to find where exactly is the issue, because all the fundamentals are already covered. So what we did was we recruited someone within the demographic that would be shopping at this website. So obviously we picked up this girl named Celeste, who obviously fits the demographic quite well of the website. And then we got her to wear what's called an EEG head unit. And you can see a high-res version of what the unit looks like. On the image in the bottom there, you can't see because Celeste has black hair and she's wearing a black head unit, so it's a bit hard to see. But what it's basically doing is it's mapping and identifying, recording her brain waves as she's going through the user flow. And what we're looking for is seeing is there any areas where she's getting confused or irritated as she's going through that process. So, sorry guys, we've got a little bit of background noise coming through. We'll just hold on for just one moment. So what we've got here on this screen is basically, this is the EEG readout of Celeste Mine, and the line we're looking for here is this green line. And as you can see, as the green line basically goes off the chart in this readout. So one of the things we can see here is that there is a massive issue where her friction is just literally going through the roof. And what we note is we can correlate when friction happens like that is when people exit the website. So the question is, why exactly, or what was she doing at that point in time to be so frustrated? And what we found was that when we lined up where that friction was to her web journey, was actually when she was involved in interacting with the filters on the website. And what it came to in interviews with Celeste post this session was that what she was actually looking for was the sizing was an area to be mindful of. And the reason being was that because Celeste is actually an extra small, and her frustration was that when she's on e-commerce sites, that if she can't refine the results to extra small, she gets inundated with product that basically may not actually have her size, and she wastes time trying to find products, gets excited about them, and then she doesn't have them in the size. So what we were able to identify there is actually bringing prominence to people being able to apply a filter based on size should be the first and foremost thing that people are looking at when they're in this example as well. So what we're able to do with that is we're able to identify exactly where the potential issues were, and then to run that into a test. So the next area that to share with you guys on how we optimize for mobile is to understand where people are coming from in mobile. So one of the challenges is a lot of people are using apps these days. So like the Facebook, Snapchat, Insta, some of the main apps. And a lot of customers are coming to us going, how do we actually get our mobile site to convert when we're getting this social traffic going through? Because in many instances, it's not converting very well. And what we've been able to identify through over, I think, about 700 different tests is there's two main areas to be mindful of in your social journey. And one of those is obviously the reduction of friction, and the other one is about getting people to start engaging with the application. And I've got two live examples of exactly how that's being solved for us all to have a look at. So the first example we've got is to understand exactly how social channels work really well. So using the RACE methodology, which is reach, act, convert, and engage, even that first one in reach, social channels do that really well, where they're able to reach the exact audience extremely efficiently and effectively. And it's about having the different type of creative to inspire and get people to excited enough to click through. And I've got a number of different examples up on the screen here that I believe do it quite well. And we've got the ones where we've got, for example, here we've got the D's pop-up shop, where obviously she's releasing product out onto the social, out onto her social platforms through video, and giving people a direct link into that particular product that's available. And then also we've also got inspiration around another one. The reason I brought this diet one here is it's more of a lead gen. It can be used within a lead gen perspective. So this one here is again about trying to inspire people about, this is exactly how what you could look like if you utilize his service, which is pretty exciting. So the question is, how do we get people that are experiencing these this bit of creative to go through and convert? And what I've got here is the one where we're looking to shorten the sales cycle. So in this example here, this is an application that enables this, but again, this could be rolled into a very effective test where we've got the Eco10 product being promoted on the web, on Facebook, and then it's once you engage with that, you then get pushed directly to that product, which is already in the user's cart. At this point in time, if the user wants, it doesn't show it in this example, but they can interact with the different attributes, say size, color, and if they scroll down from this screen to the next screen, basically they're just filling out their details and pressing buy now. This is a great example of shortening the sales cycle from social media all the way into cart. And this would be a fantastic test to run through VWO to identify whether or not this is going to work for your product and your market. And then if it is successful, there are applications on the web that would be able to help you facilitate and push this into production if need be. And please feel free to reach out to me if anyone would like any information on that. The next one I wanted to show is about getting people to engage. So here is a really good example. So before we saw the Facebook image of this is the type of body you can have if you have this diet, and this is the online flow for this particular service. And I think they do some things incredibly well here, and I thought just to call them out because I think it's very relevant for us all. So number one, they start initially with a question which is so easy for anyone to answer. Are you male? Are you female? in light of obviously a bit of cultural and sensitivity around that at the moment, but it's generally a pretty easy question to answer, male or female. Then what they're doing is they're getting you to start engaging with some really easy answers to easy questions to answer. And then what they do is something a little bit different. One of the times, when we're in a scenario here where we're trying to get people to add different things that apply to them, generally in the past we've been very much, you tell me what is applicable to you and then go next. So if that was the case in this scenario, you'd have to get a user to click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things. But what they've done is they've actually turned it around and they've made these pre-selected. So for a user that potentially is having to be asked all these questions, the reality of it is there's probably more that they would have than they wouldn't. So they've pre-selected them all, reducing the number of clicks that people have to go through that process. And then obviously they jump onto the conversion page. And on this page, whilst I don't show it here, it's a very long page that basically answers all the potential anxieties someone could have right at that end process before they put their credit card details in. So if anyone's on the call, I'd recommend you jump onto Lazar's diet plan, search for him on Facebook, check out the application. It's a great example of how optimization, a mobile experience can be optimized. You never know. We all might be a little bit more buffer in about 6 months if we all follow the diet plan. So the other area I'd like to look at here on mobile is around navigation. So just being mindful of time. I've got a lot to share with you guys, and I just want to make sure I cover as much as I can in the time I've got. So the other one is navigation. So a lot of people are asking left or right. So what's really important now is a different trend of how people are interacting with the phone. So, and that's got to do with now the screen sizes. So as screens are getting larger, it now is moving from like a one-handed operation to a two-handed operation. So previously where we might find that right-handed people would be able to easily stretch their thumb to the top right-hand corner of a device. You can see here in the iPhone 4, the iPhone 5, and just the iPhone 6 maybe is able to do it. That tap target for a mobile is definitely works well. But now as phones are turning to be considerably larger and into a two-hand device, we've got to think about what finger are they using to interact with the menu. And that's either generally the left finger, left index finger that people are using to push on that. Again, this is a great test to find whether or not you personalize the size, the side of the menu depending on the size of the iPhone. So in VWO, you'd obviously be able to recognize what device they're on, and as a result, you can then move the menu to the left or the right. Again, using VWO to actually test a personalized experience based on the device people are landing on the website too. And here I've got 4 different examples of controls of what happens once you hit that hamburger menu or the mobile menu. I've got 4 examples. One's from Etsy where they basically drop the menu down. Showpo, it slides in from the left. The iconic is basically you can scroll through all the different options. And OzSale, whilst they actually remove prominence out of the menu and actually encourage people to scroll and use that homepage to navigate. So the question here is, what type of mobile navigation would be best for yourself and in your application? And again, these are fantastic tests on a mobile device to help people to get to the product they're looking for. And each one of those 4s would be relevant for some, but also not relevant for others. The other area in optimizing for mobile is how we get people to decide what is right for them on such a small screen. And I bring ourselves to category pages. Now, the challenge we've got with category pages is based on the cognitive load that people have when they're trying to make an actual decision. So what we've got here is that you can generally only hold a few things in your short-term memory to make an active decision. And I've got some, again, 4 examples. One we've got from the Jets website where you can see there's one product that people have to look at. They scroll, they see another product, scroll, they see another product. That in our experience has generally been not the most ideal example because you're trying to remember 3 or 4th product you saw before to try and compare and know which one's right for you. We can see here in Showpo and Etsy, they've got 4 products per screen. In the testing that we've done, we have found that to be successful. However, what I would strongly recommend is obviously testing to make sure it is relevant for your market. And then in the Oz sale, they take it to the next level. You've got 12 different items there as well. So it's very important on the category page, how do we reduce cognitive load and enable people to make a decision quite effectively. The other one is on mobile, which you can't forget, that's very important, is cart options. So again, what is the right cart option for your market? And I've got 3 different examples, very different examples here. So it gets there straight away asking people to check out as a guest or create an account. Again, we've seen this work well in some scenarios, but we've also seen it work horrendously in others, where we're instantly asking people a T question, which may be seen as a blocker. The other option we've got in there, this one's taken from Cotton On. The first thing people are asking for here is their email address. Now, again, we've seen that to be positive, especially if you're using for a abandoned cart email as a service, but we also can see it as a negative where people are feeling like, I don't want to be signed up to another subscription, but just give me the product. And then we can look over here at Showpo. Showpo, I think their cart, in my experience, looks very slick. And I do like the idea of how they're asking you a question which we all should be comfortable answering, which is, what is your first name? Again, the cart's a very sensitive area, and it would be one where you would be wanting to really run a lot of tests to identify which type of cart is best for you. The final thing that I want to leave everybody here with is around when you're setting up tests for mobile, it's important that you look at a metric-based testing plan, and what that relates to is understanding exactly what are the metrics of the tests that I'm trying to affect. So if you are looking at, say, a navigation test, the metric of success, sorry guys, just hold my thing. So it's really important that if you're running tests in, say, navigation, to choose a metric of success for that particular test. And that may not be, that may be product display page views or category page views would be the primary goal or primary metric for that test. And then purchases and transactions or leads would be secondary. And the reason for that is that once you get significant, you'd be able to get significance on that that metric that's closest to the change quicker to enable you to make an iteration to that test or push it into production and iterate on it again as well. Cool. So, so that's where basically my presentation will pass over to Akash, where he'll now be able to walk you through a bit of a summary of what we've talked about, but also understanding how in his experience in VWO can help you with testing.
Thanks, Matt. So before I deep dive into the conversion optimization side of things for mobile, let's discuss a little bit about what Matt has just discussed about why mobile does not convert. I'm having some problem in changing my slide. Yeah. So Matt tries to bring our attention towards issues where why mobile users don't convert. It could be navigational issue. It could be that we are offering a much more cognitive load to the users, or we might not be testing the right metrics. So this was more on the lines of tactical side of things. Conversion optimization, the heart of conversion optimization and success lies with research. And to know a bit more about this problem, to answer this question that why users don't convert on mobile, let's try to add a little user perspective to it. So one thing which one of the biggest reason why users don't convert on mobile is because they face they're susceptible to friction. There are 2 types of friction which they come across. One is a perceived friction. A perceived friction is a mental block that happens when a visitor comes across a landing page which is either too wordy, or the form or where you trying want to fill him his details and everything is too long, or whether you are offering a very unappealing offer to them which they are not interested in. Another kind of friction could be a real friction, where a situation where user struggles to browse a website or fill a form. It could be as simple as offering them a pinch or zoom kind of an experience. It could be for the real reason that the user struggle with the fat finger syndrome on your website. A fat finger syndrome, for those people who don't know, is something where a user is trying to either only browse your website on a mobile device and just like by mistake clicks on some CTA and goes to a different page. It's a very breaking kind of an experience for him, and which we termed as the fat finger syndrome. Another to explain this in a very comprehensive way, let me take an example. Have you ever thought of buying something online? What you did, you went online, you looked at the product, you take a look at the mobile website and thought, yeah, I'll just wait and get home before buying something. There, if the site was better optimized, you would have bought it right there. So, well, I guess it's the perceived friction which was way too high at that moment, which restricted you from buying. Another main reason why mobile traffic is different from a desktop traffic would be is the intent. So we talk about the desktop users. Desktop users are users which are basically either sitting at their home or their offices and have the leisure of time. Whereas on a mobile device, the user is always on the go, whether we are sitting at the back seat of an Uber, or we are at a restaurant, or we're just strolling in a park. They don't have that luxury of time, which gives them an edge, that they have a stronger intent towards doing a particular action. Another thing which differentiates mobile users from a desktop user is the level of distraction. As I just discussed, the context or the whole setup of a desktop user is stable, whereas for a mobile user, the context varies every second. Whether we are moving or we are in a conversation or we want to try to prove something to somebody or trying to show them something. So the context changes every second. Also, the attention span of a mobile user is shorter. We try to reference that with the goldfish memory. A goldfish memory is something like goldfish who has an attention span of 9 seconds. A human behaves the same way on the mobile device. You have 8 seconds, 8 to 9 seconds to get his or her attention towards your website. If you don't grasp that in that first 8 and 9 seconds, there's a high possibility that they'll move to a different thing. This brings us to the behavior part of how user on mobile or desktop behaves. Now, when I say behavior, we talk about a little bit about how they build opinions. So assuming that I go to a website and that doesn't offer me a mobile optimized experience, I tend to build opinions about that brand. I tend to relate a very bad mobile experience in terms of offering me a very bad service, offering them a very crappy product, offering them a very bad delivery. So just by looking at the website of your mobile on our mobile devices, we tend to build perception about the brand, about that brand, which is a very dangerous thing for business. So you might be thinking about what could be the best solution to all these problems. And I think most of us here are already be using responsive designs, that whatever we have on our website should be easily be responded to the user using a responsive design. But does responsive design actually help? Is it the optimized version of a mobile? Is an optional experience for mobile users? Well, let's discuss that quickly. A responsive design is simply a replica of your desktop design. You just squeeze in whatever context you are offering on your desktop in the mobile real estate. The reason I say that responsive website fail is the same reason I'm debating the argument where I talk about mobile does not convert. The statement mobile does not convert is synonymous to saying responsive website are failing to get the job done. Because a lot of businesses are using responsive designs thinking that they're competing with the traditional pinch and zoom kind of a mobile experience. But guys, this is 2018. We are not uh, we're not contesting against the regular pinch and zoom kind of a mobile experience. We are we're contesting against we are fighting against competitors who have built personalized experiences for their users. Another reason why mobile responsive websites fail is because they offer a very shoddy kind of a context. Matt talked about cognitive overload, where he talked about that you need to understand that what kind of an experience a user is able to grasp, what kind of experience is he need to be supported with. You, when you talk about context in a mobile sense, and you offer them a responsive website of your desktop version, you're actually offering them the context of your desktop site, which is which is way too overwhelming for them, for your users. Another thing which a mobile responses does not offer is the conversion environment. When your UX is not optimized, when your user is find it difficult to navigate through your website, he does not feel very comfortable while accessing it. This was also the part where Matt discussed about navigation. These are more on the tactical side of things. Now, here is an example of a responsive website. A responsive website versus a mobile optimized website. So on your left, there is a responsive website. You can see that everything on the page, it's optimized. It's looking fine. It's looking decent. But on your right, you see that there is a very subtle menu on the top left, and there's a home button on the top right. You try to see the comparison. The reason we are debating responsive websites versus mobile optimized website is because we are not anymore competing with the pinch and zoom kind of an experience. Businesses are competing with other businesses in terms of revenue, in terms of competition, in terms of lead generation and things like that. So responsive websites do try to offer some context, give you some context to your user, but they're definitely not getting the job done for you. So it's the way forward for mobile optimized websites to go here. So I think we have tried to build some context about what why mobile optimization is very the need of the hour. Now, a lot of you right now who are attending the session might either be on the transition of moving from a website, from a desktop kind of a website to a mobile website, or to a responsive design, or from a responsive design to a way much optimized kind of an experience. And after knowing all these things, that businesses are investing heavily in investing heavily in optimization, and they are already are like way past ahead of you in that curve, I would just simply say don't panic. Even if it's okay if you don't have an optimized mobile experience right now. And the reason I say this is because of these two reasons. The first is that businesses are in the discovery stage. They're still figuring out mobile best practices for themselves. So we just discussed about understanding intent, behavior, level of distraction. This varies across segments, this vary across industries for different businesses. So every business who is investing in mobile and everything are facing these problems, are figuring out best practices for them. Another thing why I say, where I like calm you with not to panic when if you're not optimized, is that there's still an opportunity. Currently, only 30% of small and medium businesses are mobile optimized. And why I say it's an opportunity is because for mobile traffic and for mobile conversion, you're not competing with 10 other companies. If we talk about 10 companies, then you're not competing with 9 other companies. You're competing with only 2 other companies who are mobile optimized. So there's a lot of potential of conversion and improving your revenues. Now, after setting the premise of why you should test, why people don't convert, and everything, let's get into a deeper discussion of conversion optimization on mobile. Now we discussed about a lot of things, that there has to be intent, there has to be behavior, we need to understand the level of attention for the user, and it all boils down to these 4 things. We need to have a simplified communication with just give them a context about what you're offering. There need to be an ease of navigation. I think Matt spent a really great amount of time in understanding that whether we need to have a left side of the navigation or the right side of the navigation, or what kind of navigation should we build on, whether it should be demographic based or things like that. So invest a lot of time in understanding the navigation for your user and try to add cues to it. Third thing is adding credibility and offering trust to your user. So if you are a startup or a small business, there must be a lot of conception about users thinking whether you are offering credibility or you're offering a valid product or not. So try to address these issues with your design. Try to address these issues by putting out these details upfront on your website. And fourth is the psychological trigger. A psychological trigger could be as simple as just adding the urgency for users to convert, or just motivating them to take an action. So let's discuss this all of this by taking an example. So we did a research and done an experiment on one of our partner company, which is Tough Mudder. Tough Mudder is a platform which offers fun and exciting challenges to runners and fitness enthusiasts. So we looked at their website and their GA data and tried to analyze that what is stopping their users to convert on mobile. So we came across three major things, which I just discussed in the last slide, which are the components of conversion. There's some problem. Yeah. The first thing is that there's very a lot of content in the first fold, which might be enough for a desktop user because he has the leisure of time and the time to understand that context, but might not be the context for a mobile user. For him, it's too much text. It's a very text heavy page. Then we discuss the filtration part. Maybe the users are finding it difficult to get to the right event for them. So we thought of that we should redesign and work on building a much better filter for them. And then the third point, the psychological cue, which I was discussing about, which was there was no trigger to action. There was no sense of urgency for the user to make a conversion or to get deeper down into the funnel. So we worked on these three aspects. We we helped them build a simpler communication. We help them add the ease of navigation to their filters so that users can get to the events which they want to go, and add a trigger of action just by adding the sense of urgency, saying that there's a last chance, or there's this event is gonna the registration is gonna go out on this date or things like that. So taking in account of these three focus areas, they built 7 variations of that test on the basis of urgency, simplified messaging, and the navigation filters. Interested to know which variation won? Well, it was the second variation, where we just changed the filter. So we realized that the users were finding it very difficult to find the right event to go to for them. So this saw a session value uplift of 9%. Combined with two more rounds of optimization, they saw an increase to over 33%. This is more like 3 times of what they were already getting on their page, which is huge. So this is basically for you guys to understand the impact of testing, the impact of conversion optimization, and the impact of doing all these activities on your website and improving that metric for revenue, lead generation, and things like that for you. So let's get down to what are the essentials of conversion testing. What are the essentials of mobile conversion optimization? Now, just to discuss about mobile conversion optimization in particular, let's let's discuss a little bit about conversion optimization. Conversion optimization is an ongoing task, and it's something which you invest in. So you need to have a resource in place. You need to have the skill in place. You need to have a tool in place, and you need to invest on these three things continuously to get the desired result which you want to. This is the capacity which you should build while going with an experimentation roadmap. Planning and research, these are the two pillars of conversion optimization, be it for mobile, be it for desktop. Now, I leave you with these few tips on conversion optimization to get you started for this activity. More on the lines of taking the first step towards optimization. Now, I talked very broadly about macro goals, having goals in terms of revenue on your page, the goals in terms of conversion and things like that. But they all cannot be accomplished without having simpler goals. When I say simpler goals, it means micro goals. So a micro goal for an e-commerce website would be as simple as moving users from their catalog page to their product page. This is a win because most of the companies are still struggling with navigation. Most of the companies are still struggling with simplified communication, adding triggers and things like that. So make all of these your micro goals. And if you don't achieve your micro goals, forget about achieving macro goals because these are like the baby step you should take for completing a particular for completing a particular step. Second is adapting to the comfort level of the user. Matt very exhaustively talked about devices and its usability. Whether there are some phones which you use with both their hands, like the Samsung Note series, or there's some phones which you only use with one of your hands and let the thumb do the thing for you, which is more like the iPhones. Think from a comfort level of a user. Think on more on the lines that how it's easier for a user to get to a particular step or perform a particular action. Address the issue of fat finger syndrome. I repeatedly talked about fat finger syndrome where somebody tries to take a particular action on your mobile website and ends up doing completely different. Whether he's just trying to just scroll through your mobile website and ends up clicking on some CTA just because it was either too small or too big and goes to a different page altogether. Try to address these things. Another thing is when you're running an conversion optimization experiment or you're running an A/B test for your mobile devices, try to run a sanity check for them. When I say sanity check, it could be about just understanding that how your page looks after the test is live, understanding a few things of staging a few experiments. When I say staging a few experiments is using the feature which is basically IP restriction. So what companies usually do is they use the IP restriction feature to filter people from their own organization so that they don't become part of their experiment. Instead, try to use that filter to run the experiment first on your organization to understand that where are your own people who understand the product very well, people who have a hang of your website are still struggling with. What are those areas? Get those inputs from them and implement that in your hypothesis. Build the hypothesis through these things. So these are some sanctity checks which you should have in place. And lastly, differentiate users by intent. We live in a world where my mobile phone is just one meter away from my desktop. So don't differentiate by the user. The user could be the same person. The same person who works in office could be the same person who takes an Uber back home. Differentiate by intent. Intent, when I say intent, I just discussed about in my presentation that intent is something to be related with something which they were pursuing back then. So when they are on the go, they don't have the luxury of time. Try to address that problem. When when they're on the go, their context varies every second. Try to address that problem. Their attention span getting shorter and shorter by technology. Try to address those problems and not by serving them the same context which you offer on your desktop. With that, I I leave you with some questions to think on these things. So now we'll take questions. Matt, are you with me?
Yeah, I sure am. We might just stay on this slide if that's okay.
Yeah.
More than happy to answer any questions you've got.
So we have a very good question. Tasneem Shakir asked us, we are working towards building a mobile application for an already existing web tool. Would it be a good start to reduce the features for the mobile application versus web application? This includes the product store among other big companies. Would you want to answer that, Matt?
Yeah, it's a little bit tough to understand in the sense of like what is the actual purpose of the.
Basically, what he's trying to address is whether should I focus on working towards a mobile website or an application.
Yeah. So the question, the question I'd be asking then is, how frequently would a user use this application? So if we look at, say, a banking app, apps are fantastic because a lot of people use them on a regular basis. They want to store personal information in there, so they don't always have to load up, and it's quite a fast and good experience. 1 second. But if the app is for, or the service is for a product which people don't frequent regularly, then you'd be looking at more of a responsive type design for the website. The biggest challenge we've got in apps isn't so much about having the most amazing app, but it's about getting people to continue to reuse the apps, or actually start engaging with them. So unless it's something which you feel that someone would be using on a frequent and a ongoing basis, then that's where I would consider the direction between an app or a mobilized website. I hope I've answered that question correctly. I'm not sure if I've answered it or understood it wholeheartedly, but if the question was app or mobile responsive websites, that's generally the way we start making our decision.
Also, adding to what Matt said, if you're thinking from a usability perspective, we live in 2018, and I keep repeating this statement because I mean I feel that we have not done enough in understanding what kind of a technology we live in now. There's not a lot of things which a mobile website can do, what a app can do, and we can do similar things on a mobile website. Like, we used to think in 2015 that we're not able to send personalized notification, we're not able to use mobile related features on your we can only use those things using an app and not through a mobile website. But buddy, things have changed. There are user service applications available which you can just put on your mobile website and you can keep using all these things. So if you're thinking from a usability perspective, then I feel that there's not much of a comparison left. Though if you're thinking more on the business side, or offer a very personalized kind of an experience to users, then yeah, you should like definitely think in investing in an app. I think that answers your question. uh, Matt, we don't have a lot of questions here. Another thing which we can discuss about is, what more can you think from a conversion optimization perspective, which we can add, in for businesses who are just starting up to convert, starting up their process towards conversion optimization, whether it could be startups or small and medium business. What could be the good starting point for them? What kind of an experiment they should test first on their mobile website?
Just 1 minute. Yeah, so again, when starting mobile optimization, the first area is identifying where the true problems really are. A lot of time and effort can be really wasted in testing things which actually have no material impact on the overall conversion rate or the user's experience. And it might be just like a nice to have, or like, something which is quite, just a fun thing to test. So really the first place to look at is, where are you falling out? So where we looked at, in my example, we looked at sort of looking at the devices, which devices are wanting to focus on. The other one to look at is, where are people getting back to those micro goals. Are you getting people to the category pages? Are they getting from the category to the product display pages? Are they adding to cart? What is the people getting from cart to checkout? What is the abandonment from checkout all the way through to transaction? And then once you map out that user journey and you baseline those different micro conversions, you should be able to see where your attention should be placed. For example, if you find that a lot of people are getting to the home page and category pages, but very limited amount of people are getting to the product display page, clearly that's an area of opportunity for you, because people need to get to the product display page to actually purchase the product, unless you can purchase from the category page. So the first place to start is, where exactly are your customers falling out within that sales funnel, and then you can re-engineer it from there. The other one is to look at the types of traffic that are people are aware of how people are coming to the site. So again, if people are landing directly on the product display pages from social, and you're having a massive number of people that aren't sort of adding to cart or clicking through, it might be a usability issue, or it might be the fact that we're giving them too much information to make that decision, and we're selling ourselves out of a sale. So what we need to do is, again, minimize the amount of clicks needed to make the transaction, and minimize the amount of information. And that's where we saw that example where we went straight from a social application straight into the checkout for people to purchase that product and be on their way. Because as you mentioned before, people on a mobile device are quite time poor. Then the other one would be, the big place to look at would be the cart and checkout. Is it conducive to getting people to go through? What are the shipping options that you have to lower the anxiety of people going, yes, this is obviously worth my while in making the purchase? So to answer your question, the area where I would start is obviously identifying the issue. And then once you've got that, then it's a process of working out what the potential solutions could be.
Great. Another question which is coming up from Tasneem's side is, what if you have a lot of features or offerings to offer on your website? Wouldn't be this make the mobile optimized experience very heavy for the users? Wouldn't it be great to have an app in such a case?
I'm sorry, mate. Could you repeat that question, please?
So Tasneem asked us that what to do when you're offering a lot of features on the web tool, or what if you're offering a lot of uh, product descriptions or features from your product. If we do all if you promote all those things for your mobile optimized website, wouldn't it make a very heavy kind of an experience for them? Wouldn't they get too overwhelmed by seeing all those things? How do you address that?
Yeah, so I guess where I'm understanding the question is, if you've got a lot of information on a particular product, you've got a small screen, how do you optimize it to make sure that you're not cluttering up the design with superfluous information to get people through to to take the action you want? One of the things we need to know is that obviously online people read quicker than they do in the physical world, and it's even more exacerbated on mobile. So people are skimming a lot. So a lot of the areas you could do is obviously highlight the main key points that would be relevant of that product to your particular users. Would be one of the ways that you could start building out a test to see whether or not condensed information is more appropriate than complete transcripts. The other one you can look at is hiding information underneath accordions. But again, that also goes both the other way. You may have a website which is heavy in accordions holding a lot of information behind it, and you might want to test in opening the accordions. And really, this is a fantastic test to understand what is really important to your customer when they're wanting to make the decision. Do they really care about all the information that you're listing, or is there only a few key things that they need to make sure that your product will do to solve the problems that they're looking to solve? So again, it'd be understanding from the customer what's most important to them, testing those elements to make sure that they're highlighted. It'd be one test. The other test you could do is potentially collapsing all the information under accordions to see whether or not that assists people, or vice versa, taking it the other way. If you have accordions, expanding some of the critical accordions to see whether or not that helps people understand what you're offering and getting them to convert.
That's great. We're running very short on time, so let me just share the thank you note. Thanks a lot, Matt, for taking out the time to come here and share our experience with us. Thanks a lot to the attendees for attending the session. We'll come back again soon with some interesting topic and insights from the world of conversion optimization. Till then, keep optimizing.
Great.